right, guys, in this video, I'm going to introduce data types in Python. Variables concept, which I have introduced in the previous video, can store different kind of data types. For example, we can store integers, which are just integer numbers. Another very common data type is a float, which is a number which is a number that can also store a fractional part. So it has an integer part and a fractional part. So and I'm gonna put a comment as I introduced this concept in the previous video. Another very common data type in Python are strings. String is a data type which is enclosed between apostrophe, can be enclosed between either one apostrophe or two apostrophe in this way. I'm just going to put two strings like this. If you just pressed apostrophe one, Python is gonna automatically fill with the second apostrophe, the closing one, so that you don't need to put it. And your string can be any combination of words. If you noticed, if you want to use an apostrophe inside your two apostrophe that enclose your string variable, then Python is going to think that you just close the string and it doesn't know what to do with this other part, right? So you need to tell Python that this is not the closing apostrophe, and to do that, you put a dash like that. And that's it. You have your string with your apostrophe in it. And as a matter of fact, if you print it, everyone and then you run it, and I have a video on how to run things in Python, but you just go down to the terminal and you type Python. If you do it through the terminal, Python, and then the name of your script, and you see it run and produce the output that we were expecting. And then the last data type, the most common one that I want to touch on, is a Boolean. A Boolean is a variable that can store the value true or false, equal true. I'm gonna perform some exercises so that we can get more familiar about how these data types work, and also how they work when you perform arithmetical operations with them. Because depending on the data type, the output or the internal working principles are different. So if you sum two integers, it's not you're gonna get a different output than if you sum two strings. Let me just comment here on what the name of each of this data type is. This is an integer, and other example of integers is literally any other number: 8, 91,839, 7, etc., or -3, etc. And then this is a float, and other examples can be any real number, so 29.6 minus 4.5, etc. And this is a string. And again, anything included between 4. the double apostrophe. Thanks, Python, I don't need the other one. And this is a Boolean. This is true or false. Now I'm gonna add another variable in the list of our number variables, and that are complex numbers. And in Python, are written as a number followed by the J as the imaginary part. So you can write it, for example, you know, it's just an imaginary number. Now we start looking at functions which have already been written for us. So we just literally need to call the name on the functions on these variables, and these functions are gonna perform some sort of operations on our variables. So what I want to do here is checking the type of these variables. All right, so in order to check something in Python, you need, and seeing it displayed in the console, as I've already mentioned, you need to like call a print statement. And then if we want to know what type our variable is, and again, the types are so far as the ones that I have written down are integers, floats, complex numbers, strings, or Booleans. For example, if we want to check the type of output, I'm just gonna call the print function and then type, and then the variable name I want to check the type of. And once again, I go down into the terminal. I can just press the upward arrow, so I don't need to type again the command. And the output is exactly what I expected. The type of the variable is a Boolean. And again, I can do it for another variable type like height. And I perform the same operation, and it's an integer. All right. So this is the first thing. Another common thing that you might want to do with types is to change the type of your variable. For example, if you're not happy that the height of Jim has been measured to 190.1 centimeter, and you just want to say 190 centimeters, then you might want to turn your float into an integer so that the 0.1 is dropped. In order to do that, you can, I'm gonna give it the same name, height of Jim, in the next line, because in that way the variable content is overwritten. So it's not going to be 190.1, it's going to be whatever piece of code, whatever the output of this piece of code in line 3 is going to be. And I'm going to turn this particular variable value, which before was a float, into an integer by simply typing. If you notice here, integer is written as int. I'm going to write int and then height of Jim. And now I'm just gonna print it, and you're gonna see, oops, row type. And you're gonna see that height of Jim is gonna be 190 rather than 190.1. There it is. Number 2 has been overwritten by line number 2 has been overwritten by line number 3, or at least the variable name content has been overwritten, and we have height of Jim now being an integer. Now, a new concept here. Python works very well as a calculator, and if you store a variable in Python then you can use that variable with basic arithmetic operations. And I'm going to give an example of that. So I'm going to say Jim height as baby equal 120. Growth is going to be, I don't know, 2 centimeter. Jim initial height. We don't want to be illiterate here. We put the apostrophe where they need to be. Didn't need to be there. Jim's. Anyways, and then here is Jim's growth. Anyways, then Jim's growth is 2 centimeters. Okay, let's just do something a little bit more reasonable. 20 centimeter per annum. And years. We're going to say that this is the number of years. Jim's parents do not measure his height very often, so 4 years have passed since last time. And now, if we want to do Jim's Jim current height, and we want to calculate this, it's just going to be, and now an interesting new concept is that we can, instead of saying in order to calculate his current height, we just take Jim's height as a baby, which is 120, and then we sum it to Jim's growth, which is 20 centimeters per annum, times the number of years, which is 4. So it's going to be 120 plus 20 times 4. But cool new concept is that instead of writing down a number 120, 20 and 4, we're going to call the variable names. So it's Jim's height as a baby plus Jim growth times years. Now, I want to print the result, print Jim current height. Cool, Jim has gotten very tall. Jim is a very tall man. Yeah, so anyways, this is just a way to show you that Python works well. You know, like you can use Python as a calculator where instead of using numbers, you use the variables to which you have assigned your numbers. And I'm going to show you that you can also perform addition, subtraction, arithmetics, basically with other data types. Now I'm going to show you that you can also perform addition with other data types. For example, we're going to call two variables, a equal, this is a very, and b is boring exercise. And now I'm going to show you that variable c now. Actually, I'm not even going to call variable c because in Python you can just do print a plus b and it's going to perform the operation and print the result. This is a very there we go. This is a very boring exercise, but then you saw something cool, you know. Another cool thing that you can do is that you can add, you can also add other data types into your string or whatever addition. So if you want to add integer or a float, you can do, for example, c equals 5. Now, if we want to also perform some operation with a string and another data type, such as an integer, we can do so. We're going to assign the the number c to the variable 5, and then we're going to do a plus b times 5. We're going to print that. And as you see, this is a very boring exercise, boring exercise, boring exercise, boring exercise, exercise. So that's what you can do. And this is pretty much it for this main topic of data types. And in the next video, I'm going to go a little bit more in depth into the concept of every really data type and how it is used.